Who's more eager to go to war, Republicans or Democrats?
Republicans, I would say.
Like Republicans? I think the Republicans start more wars.
I would have thought that too, though over Syria, it's been mostly Democrats. Polls show more Democrats than Republicans support a military strike. So is this hypocrisy, liberals and conservatives changing their position depending who's president? No, says historian Thaddeus Russell in a Mediaite column. What do you mean?
I mean that this is a progressive war. I mean that Iraq actually was a progressive war. I mean that the ideology of progressivism, which is about 100 years old, has always said we are obligated to uplift and save the world, not just in the ghettos, but outside our borders. Anywhere we find the oppressed, we must go out and save them. So
it was Democrats that started most of the wars. World War I, Woodrow Wilson. World War II, FDR, Harry Truman, the Korean War. Kennedy and Johnson, Vietnam, Bill Clinton, Kosovo, Somalia.
That's exactly right. Progressivism has been an imperialist ideology from its very beginning.
But in my lifetime, at least, it's Democrats who have dominated the anti-war movement. When George W. Bush asked Congress to approve the use of force in Iraq, the bill passed. But it was Democrats who said things like this.
Vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
When I look out over this crowd today, I know there is no shortage of patriots or patriotism. What I do oppose is a dumb war.
So what's the difference?
What happened was that in Vietnam, progressives who originally usually supported the intervention in Vietnam saw that their ideology ended up killing millions of people in that case and became horrified, I think, by the ends of their ideology, by the consequences of it, and for a brief moment in history turned against intervention, only because of that, and also because they didn't trust the policymakers who led those wars.
And so now Barack Obama's president, he says, I trust myself, and so this is a good cause?
That's right. So one of the things you've been seeing since Obama has been a return by progressives to their original interventionist, you could say, imperialist roots.
Now, it was mostly Republicans who supported the Iraq War. We have a long list of Republicans who have changed their position on that. I think we're rolling them here. First the senators, then the congressmen, then some other well-known Republicans. This is not hypocrisy, you say?
Not at all. So the so-called neocons who drove us to war in Iraq actually all began in the Democratic Party. They all began as progressives. Their great heroes, they have said, are Woodrow Wilson and Teddy Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt, the great progressives in history. They have been consistent, not hypocritical at all. They supported intervention in Iraq to remake Iraq in our image, and they're supporting intervention in Syria to do the same. What we're seeing that's so interesting is the convergence of what's called neoconservatism with progressivism. What I say is neoconservatism is neither new nor conservative. They are actually fundamentally progressive. They are finding their natural allies in what are people called progressives.
But at least this time, the majority is not going along.
Well, that's good. Finally.
I agree. That's good. But I'm puzzled most by the media, which everybody I've known in the media has been pretty leftist and mostly anti-war. And yet the media often seem to be leading the charge, at least at first. Chemical weapons, look at this picture, it's terrible. We must act. And I would think that MSNBC would be, the lefty channel would be the most anti-war, and it's done so much, let's go to war cheerleading.
I just don't think that the world can sit idly by and watch innocent children be gassed to death.
If you basically lied, put down a red line and say, don't use chemical weapons, and then he goes ahead and blatantly does it.
But the most powerful words came from 10-year-old Sidra, a message she said she had for President Obama. Does he want his kids to be like us? Aren't we just like them? When we get bigger, we're going to write, Obama didn't help us.
We have to attack or we're letting children die.
MSNBC is finally understanding who they really are, what progressivism really is and always has been. Since we invaded against Spain and Cuba and the Philippines through World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam, Kosovo, and Somalia, it has been progressives who have killed far more people in this country than conservatives.
But they don't just want to invade. What's the philosophy behind it?
They ultimately want to remake the world in our image. That's what progressives have said since Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson. That's what progressivism always has been about. It's about remaking the people in the ghettos in our image, meaning elite white Americans, and it means remaking the benighted people of the world in our image as well.
And as you say, domestically, it goes well beyond that. We can make education better. We must run education. We must run health care. We must police the workforce. We can make everything better. Government can do that benignly.
That's right. It is uplifting the poor and the oppressed through the means of the state, through that monopoly on violence. Domestically, that's taxation and law enforcement. Abroad, it's through military force. It's very consistent.